This text is called Atma Bodh. Atma means self, means awareness, pure consciousness, and Bodh means knowledge of the self, self-knowledge. It's a special text written by a sage named Shankara. Acharya means his teacher. Shankara means the self. Shankara is a name for the self. In Vedanta, the teachers, when you become a sannyasi, you're given a name, and it's always the name of the self. Your worldly name goes. Your clothing, the worldly clothing goes. You get orange clothes. You make certain vows, basically ahimsa. You make a vow not to injure anybody, and you get a name that refers to the self, not a name that refers to this body-mind. So Shankara means the one who destroys ignorance. The self is the one who destroys, is the destroyer of ignorance. Shankara lived in the 8th century AD, and he was what you would call a child prodigy. He was a Brahmin from Kerala, and from a very early age he wanted, even when he was 4 or 5 or 6, he wanted to become a sannyasi. Can you imagine a mother has a child, and he's 5 years old, and he says, "I want to become a sannyasi." You've got to think the kid is nutty. You can't really believe that a child would want to be a sannyasi, because normally children just want to get an iPod and a tricycle and get on with it and drink Coca-Cola and have a nice life. But this little kid says, "I want to be a sannyasi," and his mother says, "No way. No way, you cannot be a sannyasi." And he can't, because he's following Vedika Dharma, he has to take the words of his mother as the truth. He's a Vedika, even though he's a kid, he understands what it is, and the Dharma there is that your parents are God, basically. And so their word is the law, and you need their permission to do everything. And to get permission to do, she wasn't going to give him permission to take sannyas. I mean, he's a kid. He's just a kid. And you know how kids are, they get these funny ideas. "I want to be a fireman, Mommy. I want to be a policeman." And they never end up as policemen or firemen, or maybe they do, but you think, oh, it's just a fantasy, the kid. He sees these sannyasis wandering around. He likes their orange clothes. They're nice people. He says he wants to be a sannyasi. So, one day, he and his mother are bathing in the river, and he swims out a bit. And then he starts screaming and ducking under the water and waving, "Ah, there's a crocodile that's got me! Ah!" He's screaming and he's pounding the water, and he bobs up, and then he goes under, and then he bobs up, "Mama!" And she thinks, "Oh my God, the poor boy's going to die." And then he comes up and he says, "Mom, I'm dying. Can you give me sannyas now?" Now, there's a provision in the Vedic tradition that in the event that even though they're not qualified, in the event that they're dying, a person is dying, you can give them sannyas, just as a last rite, just to make them feel good.
So she said, "Okay, my son, you can have sannyas." She thinks, and then suddenly, oh, he let go. The crocodile let go, Mom. But she can't go back on her word because she's given her word. And in Vedic Dharma, when you give your word is, that's it. You can't go back on it. See, you have to. So he's got sannyas now. So he got a little older, and he went to there was a great sage there, Govindacharya. It was his guru. Govindam Paramanandam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krito Vande Bhagavanto Punaha. He said, he goes to Govinda. Govinda means the one who keeps the light. Again, that's another name for the self. So he goes to Govinda. Govindacharya was the biggest Vedanta guy in India at that time. And this boy walks up, I don't know how old he was, maybe 11, 12, something like that. He may be just about a teenager. And he says, I would like your permission to write a bhashya. A bhashya means a commentary on a particular Upanishad. I've forgotten which one it was. And the guru looks at this boy, and he says, "Are you kidding? Are you kidding? You're a kid. I mean, I can't, no, definitely not. You have no permission to do this." He says, "Anyway, even if you're a genius, look at all these monks around here. I mean, what are they going to say? Everybody's going to say I'm an idiot. I can't allow you to write a commentary on an Upanishad, no way." So Shankara wrote it anyway. And he handed it to him. And the guru said, "Okay, just write whatever you want." Because it was brilliant. And he died when he was 30, 32 or something. And within that time, he completely reestablished Vedanta as the premier, most powerful spiritual tradition in India, and it still is today. He had great debates. He walked all over India. They had these huge debates between all the. In those days, they had the kings would in finance and invite all the top thinkers and the top people in the society to come and hear these debates. And they had rules about these debates on the nature of God and consciousness and so forth and so on. The Buddhists were there. There were all kinds of the Sankhyans. There were a whole bunch of different schools of thought and different. India was a really highly intellectual and highly spiritual culture in those days. And they got together and they argued and fought over their ideas. And he basically just using he was an enlightened person. And using his knowledge of the scripture, he defeated everybody. That's the reason there are no Buddhists, basically. He chased them out of India. They either surrendered and went back to Vedanta, or they left India. There are a few other reasons, but that was the primary reason. Because he established the scripture as the basis, of moksha, of enlightenment. And he showed that what this is all about is moksha, that the scripture is about moksha, and that it is a valid means of knowledge. And he never claimed that he was a great sage or that he invented any of this. He said, "I am just a link in the tradition," because that tradition had flowed down even by that time, it had been several thousand years, this tradition of Vedanta had been there. And he said, I'm just another link. I'm just elucidating by commenting on these scriptures, removing certain questions and certain doubts. Because if you read the scriptures in the original, there are various interpretations you can make. There are apparent contradictions. And he was a brilliant guy. The way his mind was so brilliant and so logical and so clear that he basically answered all of these questions in his commentaries, or bhashyas they're called, and his original works. This is an original work of his. And this has the status of an Upanishad. That is, we said that the source texts are 3 here in number, the Upanishads, the Brahma Sutras, and the Bhagavad Gita. Well, this work has the same status as any one of those texts, because it doesn't contradict the fundamental revelation of Vedanta, that this is non-dual reality and that everything is consciousness, that you're non-separate from consciousness, and that you're free. And the Vedanta is a legitimate means of liberation. So he was a great... and nobody's really done much with Vedanta since that time, except to just clarify it in other little small ways. There's another great sage that came a little later, named Vidyaranya Swami. He wrote a very famous text called Panchadasi, which is again brilliant. And since then, not much has gone down. Although in the last 50 years, both Swami Chinmayananda and Swami Dayananda Saraswati have made this available in English. My guru was the first one to really make all the scriptures available in English. It's a big move for the Vedanta. Vedanta always stayed in Sanskrit and in local languages, Hindi, Marathi, Tamil, and Malayalam, and Kannada, and these local languages. It always remained there up until about 50 years ago. And my guru began, he was a Sanskrit scholar, he was a realized person, and he began teaching it in English. And one of his students, Swami Dayananda, who's the top guy in India today, he moved the language on and purified a little bit of Chinmaya's teaching. So now and then what I've done is basically even made Dayananda a little more accessible. Although everything that I write is totally in harmony with the Dayananda's teaching, which is completely in harmony with the scripture. But I've made it even more accessible in English by taking out most of the Sanskrit. And I'm a Westerner, and it's easier to understand from somebody who doesn't wear orange clothes and isn't a Swami, that it's just a regular person. It makes it easy for this knowledge to be transferred.